So it's not every day that while we're working at a customer's job site, the customer pulls up in their car, jumps out of their car and wants to fight us. But that's exactly what happened today. So I'll set the stage for you. We got a phone call from a lady who owned a house, and she said she was having some septic issues. We knew what those issues are. We knew that her tank was 4 feet deep. She told us to fix the issues. So we billed her, she paid the bill, and we rolled out to fix it. Now, when we rolled out, we took 2 trucks, a trailer, a track hoe, a septic worker, a helper, me, and my social media filming person. So we're all on this job site. So think several people and well over $250,000 worth of equipment parked in front of this house while we're working. Now, obviously, before we did any work at all, we called 811, which is the Miss Utility, so that we don't hit power lines, phone lines, and things like that. And Miss Utilities came out and marked all the lines, which for anybody who does underground utility work like us, you'll know that that's BS. They tried to mark the lines. They more or less missed them. In any event, we start working. Nobody's home. We've got a work order. It's no big deal. The track hoe takes 1 scoop out of the ground, and guess what we dig up? That would be phone lines, cable lines, data lines, all kinds of lines. And we're like, well, damn. And we start looking around. We're like, did we miss some markings? No, we didn't. So go over, knock on the house just to see if anybody's home. There's no cars in the driveway. Nobody's home. And we're like, you know what? Screw it. We're going to keep working. They weren't marked by 811, so that's not our responsibility, not our fault, not our problem. Now, whenever I knocked on the door to see if anybody by chance was home, I did notice that there was a Ring camera and it wasn't working. But that's okay. We went back to work to finish our job. Now, what I didn't know was that the homeowner, the gentleman, not the lady who hired us, was in fact watching their Ring camera. And the last thing they saw was more than 3 people approaching the house with heavy equipment, and then he lost internet. Somehow, from people with track hoes in work equipment with shovels, he got that his house was being robbed. I don't know how you make that leap, but it happened. So did he call his wife and say, hey, do you have anybody doing any work on the house? Of course not. Did he make a call to his internet service provider and say, hey, are you guys having an outage? No, he did not. He just assumed that because 3 people walked up his driveway with an 8,000-pound track hoe, that his house was being robbed. Now, I've got to seriously sit back and wonder, I mean, did he think that we brought the track hoe to like breach his front door? Like, what would we be using the track hoe for? And whenever he looked at the crew that was approaching his house and everyone was dressed in the same uniform, did he think that we were like an organized crime group? And when he saw the person that was holding the camera that films us for social media, did he assume that that person was just documenting the great heist that is his house? I don't know. I don't know where his brain went with that. Now, as his mind is reeling from the idea that he's being robbed by a highly organized, uniformed group of robbers that use heavy equipment to breach the door of his house, did he think to call the police? No, he did not. Did he think to call his neighbor and say, hey, what's going on? He did not. Did he think to look on his freaking Ring camera at the logo of the company and call the company? No, he did not. What he decided to do was jump in his car and drive to his house to confront the band of criminals. So here we are working away at his house, right beside his driveway next to his house. We're covered in sweat, covered in dirt. We've got a person in a trench. We've got a person in a track hoe. We've got another person filming while I'm talking about the job. And out of nowhere comes this mundane Nissan Altima that is traveling at the speed that can only be described as Mach Jesus. And it comes right up his driveway. Now, his driveway is kind of steep. So as he goes up that, he's going too fast. And the front, I guess, guard hits the concrete. So we hear this massive scraping. And he's coming up his own driveway at just way too fast. And as he's driving up his driveway, he slams on the brakes. His car skids to a stop. And we're like, what in the fuck is going on? We look over and jumps out of the car, this guy in a pair of shorts and a freaking Hawaiian shirt. And as he steps to the other side of the door, he's just there, locked, with his arms tense, his legs locked, and he's looking at us, and he just looks like rabid, okay? This is like a suburban dad who's never done manual labor in his life, got the dad bod going on with the belly, And he is literally shaking because he is not prepared for the amount of adrenaline that is going through his body right now as he is confronting this group of people that are robbing his house. And as he's standing there, you can see him go from like anger and like ready for confrontation to just a little bit of confused. But he's there with his fist clenched and his shoulders out. And we're looking at him like, what the hell is this crackhead doing? Now, as he jumped out of the car and he's standing there, when I say that his body wasn't ready for the amount of adrenaline that was coursing through it, it truly wasn't, okay? And as he shouted at us, "Who are you and what are you doing here?" his voice cracked like a prepubescent adolescent. Now, as soon as the car comes screeching into the driveway, the person that's filming stopped filming because now there's something new going on. And we're all standing there watching this, okay? We've got the track operator, the guy in the ditch, the helper, me, the person filming. And as he says this, it was kind of like the last straw. Like, we've just seen this ridiculous car race up the driveway, the slamming on the brakes, the jumping out, this ridiculously frumpy guy ready to engage us in mortal combat. And when his voice just cracked like that, it was the last straw. And we just all burst out laughing. So as he's standing there, as we stop laughing, I kind of clear my throat a little bit. I'm like, sir, relax a little bit. Your wife has hired us to come fix the septic. There's some problems with it. I'm sure she discussed that with you. You know, just calm down a little bit. And he looks around. He's like, oh, I thought you guys were some burglars. I was about to kick some ass. And just the idea of him saying that he was about to kick some ass, like, just caused us all to burst out laughing again, because here we are, all tradespeople, with tools and implements like shovels and dig sticks and heavy equipment. And, well, he's him. And let's just say that we really didn't feel like we were in that much danger. So again, not trying to be rude, but it was just funny as hell, and we all burst out laughing again, which left him even more confused. So again, stop laughing, look at him, and I'm like, sir, how are you going to confront a band of house burglars when you didn't even bring a gun? And at that point, he gets this really confused look on his face and looks around and realizes he doesn't have a gun. And he says, shit, I left the gun in the house. Well, that's a problem, because you just jumped out like you were ready to like whoop some ass, and you completely forgot your gun. It's in the house that we're apparently robbing. Bravo, sir. Bravo. So the guy on the track host speaks up, and he's like, dude, what was your plan? What were you going to do? Like, you jumped out of the car with nothing. Your knees are shaking. This is not Call of Duty. You're not kicking anybody's ass. And finally, for the first time, this guy takes like a deep breath, and he kind of looks around, and his brain has caught up with reality, and he realizes he's not being robbed. And then this just starts like a whole series of other questions, like, what did you think you were going to do against 4 guys? What did you think they were possibly stealing from your yard when you pulled up to your house and they were digging in your yard? Specifically in your septic tank. Like, what did you think we were doing? Did you think we were like the turd burglars and we're taking all your shit? Or were we just there for the corn and we were going to leave you with absolutely no corn in your septic tank and just shit? Like, what was the thought process? What exactly were we stealing? So as we shared these thoughts with him, like, dude, what were we stealing? He started to catch up and realize just how ridiculous this scenario was, and he started laughing with us. So as we're laughing and stuff like that, he starts sharing his thoughts with us, and one of the things he said was, man, it would have been different if I just had my gun. And we all burst out laughing again, and he's like, what? What's going on? And we started like pulling up our shirts, and he saw of the 5 of us there, 4 of us had guns. And he suddenly realized that not only did we have the cover and concealment of the 4-foot hole in the ground and the track hoe, that he was outgunned by his fake turd burgling, house burgling work crew in his yard. So even if he had showed up with his gun, it would have been a bad day. And so one of the things that we shared with him was that perhaps in the future, he should have called the police. Because then if the cops show up, we know where we stand, the cops know where they stand, and everybody talks peaceably, and there's no issue. But can you imagine the scenario if he had showed up and started waving a gun at us? That wouldn't have been great at all. And we explained to him that, like, you should not risk your safety by confronting a group of people at your house, okay? Like, you've rushed home from work. You probably endangered a shit ton of people while you were driving. You probably damaged your car as you hit your driveway at Mock Jesus. And then you were totally unprepared for the scenario that was playing out in your head. Like, what were you thinking? Don't risk your personal safety. This is what you pay taxes for, so that you can have the police handle this for you. And he's like, well, what would the police have done differently than me? And we're like, you're not thinking. They would have shown up at a reasonable speed in a marked vehicle in uniform and had us stop working and identify what we were doing. We would have showed them a work order and all would have been well, and they would have communicated to you that your house isn't being robbed by a band of turd burglars. And then he said the most HOA suburban Kyle dad thing that he possibly could have said. And he said, well, I guess this is a reason I should join Neighborhood Watch. Please don't, because if this is your mentality, you're going to get killed if you join Neighborhood Watch. Because if anything bad happens, the burglar's going to club you with his crowbar and you're going to be done. Now, about that time, drives into the car a very reasonable Mitsubishi Eclipse. And it comes up at a normal speed and gets out the lady who has hired us. And she walks up and wants to know what's going on. And we recount this entire tale for her. And she just looks at her husband and was like, can you please go in and get me a glass of water? And when he walks inside the house, she goes, it's just so cute when he thinks he's tough like that. Now, amongst all of this, we obviously had to stop working. So we weren't done fixing the septic system yet. So we finished digging up the septic system, found the problem, fixed it. It ended up being cheaper for them than they thought it was. So we gave them a little bit of money back. And all went about their days normally. Until he realizes he still doesn't have internet. So we're like, hey, it's not a big deal. If you call the cable company, they'll come out and fix the line. It's their responsibility to fix it because they didn't mark it with 811. And he's like, cool. So he goes inside to call the cable company, and the wife, thanks us and offers us food and all that other stuff. And we finish up and leave. We get a phone call from him later. And he says, hey, I wanted to call you guys about my cable being out. And I'm thinking to myself, he's going to try to put a damage claim on us. We called 811. There's nothing we can do. We're like, yeah, what's going on? He says, well, the internet's back on, but I didn't see that the cable man came out to fix it on my Ring camera. And I was like, your Ring camera that works off the internet? And he said, yeah. I said, the internet that was out so that your Ring camera doesn't work. And he goes, yeah. I was like, you didn't see the internet repairman on your internet camera when your internet was out. And he goes, yeah, that's right. I don't think they came. I said, is your internet working? He says, yeah, it's working great. I said, then there's a pretty good chance that they came and fixed your internet. And you should probably talk to your wife about why you didn't see them on the Ring camera. And he goes, why would my wife know? And I said, don't worry, your wife will know why you didn't see them on your internet-based Ring camera when your internet was out. And he was like, okay, I'll call her. Guys, I want you to remember what the average intelligence is for people in the public. And then I want you to remember that half of the people on the planet have an intelligence less than that, because that's the way averages work. If you enjoyed the story, fantastic. The best way to support the channel is to go on the merch store and buy a t-shirt. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and we'll see you next time.